You all right?
My morning routine, you see, Kim. Coffee. So I didn't come here really to talk about myself. First of all, we thought we would talk about goal setting and short-term and long-term goals. So, Kim, how does a short-term goal? Okay, where do we start? Do we start with a 5-year plan? Do we start? I mean, people are confused. I mean, it's difficult, right?
Yeah, it is. And as we were chatting on Wednesday about, and we've had a few conversations this week, it's really hard if we don't know where it is that we're heading. So I think you've got to start with where it is you want to go, and that can sometimes be difficult to define because we can't always see what's available to us. So I think you've just got to keep revisiting it and saying, what do I think is my purpose? Where is it I want to go? Where is it I get my joy? Because we're supposed to have more joy in our lives. We're supposed to be heading towards something that brings us joy, hopefully bringing other people joy at the same time. But I think, for me, what I do with mine is I'll look at what's my long-term goal and go, well, I don't really know how to get there. That's all a bit too scary. That's a bit too far away. But what is it that I could do that would head me in that direction? And that becomes my short-term goal. And I think it's making sure that you've got that balance. And the reason I think it's always important that you have that balance is I always remember a guy I was working with many years ago, and his short-term goal was to be a great project manager, and his long-term goal was to be a program director. But when I asked him a bit more detail about his long-term goal, that wasn't really where he wanted to be. It wasn't what he had as his ultimate aim. It was just the next logical step in the traditional career path. What he really wanted to do was move into acquisition. And so if you're not really careful about your goals, you'll end up getting so far down a career ladder that you actually can't move because you can't afford to take the pay cut, to take the sideways move. And actually what we needed to do instead with him was see how do we help him get involved in more projects that were about acquisition so that he could start to move into that stream and then ultimately achieve his aim, which was to be head of acquisition, which he went on to do. But if we'd not been careful in aligning where was his short-term and long-term goal heading him, then actually he could have ended up never achieving what he really wanted to because he hadn't done that sense check of, is this moving me towards where I want to go?
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge, isn't it? I mean, when I was a child, I always had my dad sort of breathing down my neck and telling me how he was a corporate planner, and because he was a business expert. Well, when he was working, he was a business expert, right, in the day, and he used to lecture on business and actually corporate planning back in the day, like in the 80s, right? So I kind of had all of that. Oh, you need a plan, son. You got to go to the best schools, and you got to go to the university, and you need to get a good degree, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And frankly, it just demotivated me. I mean, you and I, we don't have degrees, and the most successful people that we know probably don't have degrees either. I mean, Michael Tobin doesn't have a degree, right? And so it's kind of like, well, how do people just break free from this kind of picture of what they thought success looked like? I mean, because a lot of people they're stuck, aren't they? I mean, we had someone in one of our groups that we run on Facebook saying that she's stuck in her corporate job and she can't afford to leave, much like what you just said. So what do you do with your career if you're in that position?
Well, it can be really hard because sometimes we have a plan. We think we have a plan, and then life comes in and changes the plan for us. I mean, when I left school, I knew what I wanted to do, so I happily trolled out, having done my GCSEs just about, and I knew I wanted to be a hairdresser. So for me at the time, education wasn't important to me because I knew what my path was. I knew what I intended to do, and I'd been on that path since I got my first Saturday job at 12 in a salon, and knew that was my aim. And it was going really well. I'd set my own business up. I was a salon owner. Things were going well, but life had got a different plan. It suddenly decided I was going to be allergic to perm lotion. So funnily enough, that career came to a crashing halt. And you kind of, so I get it. You're suddenly in that space where you're like, well, oh dear, what do I do now? Because actually my plan is no longer available to me. So I'm going to need to have a different plan. And life has thrown a number of plot twists my way over the years. And I guess what I've got very good at is adapting to the new plan. And some of that is looking at it and saying, okay, I can't do that. So what is it I can do? Because focusing on the things that I can't do doesn't change anything. It just gets me stuck. It doesn't allow me to move forward. So actually, I look instead at what are the things that I can do and where might they head me? Because as Michael Jordan said, you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the next step. And every step we take brings new things into our vantage point. But I think it's keeping that focus, and education is massively important. I'm now a lifelong learner. I'm a complete course junkie, as you know, because I think it's fascinating with the stuff that we can learn, and we learn something new every day as long as we have that mindset. But I think it is about being a bit kinder to ourselves, that actually it's okay if we're not always 100% certain how to get somewhere. It's about looking at where is it do we want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it in a different way, because I've never actually worked in a corporate job as you have had the pleasure of doing. So I sort of look at it. I mean, I have a lot of friends, and about 12 years ago, I was quite incompetent when it came to computers and it came to technology. It came to doing what I'm doing now, right? So I basically just took my friend's advice. He said, go and do this, go and learn how to build your own website on WordPress, and go and do this and do that. And what I found is that along the journey to where I am now, I found things that were really enjoyable in my life. And those things I just put time and effort into doing, because actually, all right, they might have scared me at the time when I didn't actually know anything about them. But I just thought, well, actually, I'm going to just do it, right? And those kind of steps that I made, if I hadn't have made those steps, then I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today on this broadcast, right? So I think getting in touch with people's childish curiosity is like massive. And if you are stuck and you're in a corporate job and you really hate it, then perhaps just look at your childish curiosity and take the time to think about, what do you enjoy doing? I mean, that's what I say to people if they approach me and talk about this,
Yeah, and I think, for me, I made one of my biggest ever career disasters, probably about nearly 20 years ago now. And I hadn't realized at the time that rather than running towards the job I wanted, I was running away from the job I had. I didn't like what I was doing. And because I was in that mindset, as opposed to in the mindset of moving towards something I wanted, I ended up, whatever came along, going, oh my God, that's ideal. That's me. That's exactly what I want to do. And I ended up, I upped sticks. I moved cross country. Go big or go home. So I moved to an area where I didn't know anybody, bought a house, and I was with this company for 3 months, 2 of which were my notice period, because I hated every minute of it. There were lovely people. It was a nice company, but the job wasn't right for me. And I didn't realize that at the time until I looked back and was like, actually, I'd not really understood where I get my joy. And I learned then to do a blueprint. So to sit down quietly when you're nice and relaxed and go, where are all the things in my life where I get joy, whether that's at work or outside of work? And then on the other side of the piece of paper, where are all the things that take my joy, that sap my energy? And use that as your blueprints. The next time you're convincing yourself that this is going to be an amazing job and it's going to be right down your street, you instead can look at it and go, oh, actually, it's got too many of the things that take away my joy. So I'm going to find that really difficult to keep my energy up. For me, I know if I don't get to work with people, then I really struggle, which is why, I love the fact we work together every day. We get so much more done, even though sometimes all we actually do is end up on a Zoom individually doing our own bits of work, but being able to chat, because actually I need that energy. If not, I would really struggle. But because I know that, I'm able to adapt my life to make sure that fits in.
Very much so. I think that's fantastic insight. So basically, if anyone's watching this or listening to this, you basically just get a piece of paper. On one side, you write down, I like this. The other side, you write, I don't like it. And then you draw a line down the middle. And so those things that you want to do more of, you focus on. But I would add to that actually make a list of things that you're genuinely interested in, because those are going to open up your learning path. I think learning pathways, is that a thing?
Yeah, and I think it's finding that whether it's a learning pathway, whether it's a learning roadmap, whether it's just a list of things that you're interested in. I think it's just find the stuff that motivates you, that you go, actually, I want to do this because I'm interested in it. You know, if I go and find something that I'm interested in, then, you know, I'm a bit of an addict. So I will then go and like max out on it until I know all about it, because that's actually one of the things that I enjoy most in life, is to learn something new. And some things I learn, I go, oh, okay, interesting, I'm probably never going to use that again. And some things that I learn, I go, oh wow, this is amazing, and I can see how it fits in. But that's just because that's where I personally get my joy, and I like to learn by just jumping in. Not everybody does, and everybody's own personal learning style is right for them. It's finding the way that works for you. I mean, we're reading the same book. I went straight in gung-ho through it, and you're doing a much more methodical, I'll read a bit and then I'm going to reflect on that, work out what it means for me, and then move forward. Neither one of them is right or wrong. It just means that it's about finding the one that works for you. And I think this is the challenge. You know, we live in a compare and despair society, and actually we're getting so bad at it now that we even compare and despair about how we learn, how we look, how we do things, how we turn up, how we speak. And it's like, actually, we're all uniquely us. As Oscar Wilde said, you know, be yourself, everybody else is taken. And I think that's the thing we're all now trying to learn, is how do we get comfortable with just being us? And the fact that my goal might be very, very different to your goal, but that's okay, because my goal's mine and your goal's yours. And they don't have to be the same. They don't have to be as ambitious. They don't have to be as audacious. They don't have to be as big. They just have to be something that we're passionate about.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think also the book that you're talking about, you have masses more experience than I did within negotiation. So I was like, I really need to absorb this on a deep level, right? Because if I don't, then it's going to be, then I'm not going to get the benefit of it. But for you knew masses about negotiation anyway, right? From 30 years in the board, 30 years in corporate life, 10 years in the boardroom, you're used to negotiating top level people, right? I have negotiated, but there's a different level altogether, really. And so that was the reason. It was like, for you, it was just rounding off the kind of a little bit of something maybe you'd forgotten, or maybe there was a new insight. But for me, it was actually really upskilling. I mean, I learned how to do some negotiation when I was doing some purchasing with my dad, and he went to MIT, and I was negotiating with this guy at Harvard. So for him, it was like a game, right? Like we had this game, like I would say, well, this is how much it's going to cost. And then he would come back and say, well, actually, no. And then I'd say, well, this is the reason why. And then this whole conversation via email, right? It was just fascinating. So, excuse me. So I found that fascinating. But I think this leads nicely onto our next conversation. I mean, I think you and I learn in a very similar way, and also very differently. But I think in terms of actually going to the best people in the world, I mean, that's what we do. Yeah, like I've been researching Tai Chi. I've been doing Tai Chi, like in my morning routine, 25 years it will be actually this year. And, that's something that basically started out as like a kind of, I don't know, it was like just a fascination. And then it was like, wow, this is amazing. Oh, this is really difficult. And then it was like, oh, I need to know more. And then I kind of progressed past like, with a certain elements of the martial art, I progressed past the knowledge that was there with my teacher. So I was like, well, what other teacher am I going to get? And then, I basically went all the way to Guatemala to go and search out one of the only people in the world who I thought would actually give me the insights that I needed. Right. So you and I, we learn in a very similar way. I think in terms of like exercise, we're very different, because you do other exercises. So what's your morning routine look like?
So my morning routine's adapted over the years, as I think everybody's does. I mean, obviously I've got a little one, so fitting her in, making sure that we set ourselves up. But for me, part of my morning routine is picking my mindset. Is, you know, those couple of minutes when you first wake up, it's thinking about kind of what is my desire for the day? What am I going to try and get out of it? And, you know, anybody that's seen my social media knows I use a quote to do that. So for me personally, I pick a quote that's going to sum up what I'm thinking of for the day. And I use that to help me set my mindset. And then I think through what are the 2 or 3 things that I need to get done today that are going to be the real needle movers. And then I go and do a bit of mindfulness and a bit of exercise, because actually for me, then I feel like I've got myself in that right space. So my exercise isn't Tai Chi. Mine's actually a dance app that I do with my little girl, who spends most of her time standing at the side of me saying, "Jump, mummy, jump." Like, all right, love. She's like the bossiest personal trainer I've ever had. But what I'm also trying to do is get her used to the fact that actually it's about thinking through, you know, what are we grateful for? We do our what we're grateful for together. We do a little bit of the dance app. When she's gone, you know, when I've come back off the nursery run, I also usually will walk back. It takes me like 20 minutes, and I'll do 20 minutes of listening to an audible book, because then I feel like actually I've started myself off on that lesson of learning for the day, and it gets me in the right mindset. But everybody will have their own routine, and I think, you know, that's one of the things that I've learned from all the study of, you know, all of the greats, is they've all got a morning routine. They're not the same. The only thing that is the same is that they all have one. They all have something that they do every day that works for them, that allows them to get themselves into the right place, the right mindset, the right focus to deliver their day.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. Talking about that, I mean, I spoke with the founder of the Coffee Republic chain that sold. I think she built 120 stores. They sold it for quite a lot of money. And Sahar, she actually shared her morning routine, which basically she works from home, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, what she does is she goes out, she gets up first of all, and she has coffee, obviously, right? And then she will literally go in the shower, but she'll have a cold shower. Right. And then she basically, I think, goes out with her dog. And when she comes back in, she's basically like, "Oh, I'm coming to the office." So she tricks her mind into thinking that she's going to the office. That's what she does, which I thought was quite interesting. But I think the gratefulness thing is really big. I mean, I woke up this morning, I'm trying to be grateful every day at the moment because the weather's amazing. Our business is going really well, and you know, we've got all the right people in our lives. So I look out the window and I'm like, wow, look at that view. I've got like sea down there and trees over there, and like I'm just super grateful to be here. But then my morning routine, like I've been training for years, yeah. So you don't just wake up one morning and you can't just do like 3 hours training or 2 hours training. But I used to do 5 a.m. until 7 every day. I did that for like 8 years, and I broke that routine, right? Because I kind of got into drinking and working really hard, but also having a drink afterwards to de-stress. And then that was like a sour cycle of it kind of damaged my routine. So consciously made an effort to sort of, you know, change that. But it's, you know, I don't have a pool here, right? If I had a pool, it'd be different, because when you've got a pool, right, literally, if it's a hot, nice warm climate, or it's nice and warm, you do some exercise, then you jump in a cold pool, and then you're ready. And that big shock is amazing. But I'm not going to go down there in the morning. It's walking back up is like murder in 28 degrees or something. It's just like, no, it's not happening. So, but I think you're right. I think everyone has a different routine, and exercise is just it's massively important. And like drinking lots of water is massively important. Diet is important. You know, all these things, just without them, it's kind of like, well, I don't understand how you can focus on your mindset and your mind without balancing like the endorphins and the testosterone and the estrogen and the, you know, and what's the other, cortisol? That's the one, cortisol.
Well, yeah, because I think what we've got to do, I mean, if we think about it, our mind takes a lot of powering up. So if we're wanting to get our mind in the right mindset, we need to be fueling ourselves appropriately. You know, we were chatting about this on Business Blogs yesterday with a fascinating lady who was talking about how we can better take care of ourselves. And I'm really not very good at it. And I know, and then I'll get into the afternoon and I'll realize that I've booked myself back to back all day. I've not given myself any breaks. I've not eaten anything. So apart from the fact I drink a lot of water, I have occasions where I'm really bad at remembering to fuel myself properly, to like go actually take a breather, go and have something to eat. And actually when I don't do that, I know for myself that things start to get a little bit fuzzier. I don't work as quickly as I do the rest of the time. Now, for some people, that's probably a real benefit, because when I'm on form, I can work a little too quickly for people.
When you're on form, it's sick. Your workload is sick. Yeah, like I don't like anyone watching this, right? Kim's workload, like I don't even try and compete now. Like I tried to for a little while, but then I got to like, I think it was like, I was up to like 75% of what you were doing on 90% of your effort. And that tired me out. And I was like, I just need to relax. Like I can't work at that pace, but you can't sustain it all the time. Like you can do short bursts, right? But like you can't sustain that all the time. I don't think it's good for you. And I'm the same. Like I'll sit in my chair for far too long, and then I realize like, oh, my ankle's a bit swollen or something, and I have to get up and like stretch and you know, and I can feel it in my arms if I don't actually get up and walk around. Every hour is what they recommend, you know. So Kim, it's been amazing. Thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, I think any questions, reach out to us. But if you're a coach, please go to elitecoachesclub.com and grab the Grow training. And also, if you're actually a business leader, that is a very helpful piece of training, because that's for goal setting, right? And it can be used in any area of business, life, exercise, whatever you want to achieve, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's been used effectively for over 30 years, but it just helps you to break down where you're going and where you're starting from, because that's usually one of the challenges, is either we've not really clearly defined where we're going, or we've not really understood where we're starting from. And once we really know those two, then you can take the next steps. So hopefully it'll help.
elitecoachesclub.com. Thank you.